Today, we celebrate our first year of these lessons. It is our lesson 52. The first one was in 12 August 2020. Just after the explosion of Port Beirut in 4 August 2020, and after this horrible event, Dr. Jagvin, my professor, called me proposing to start a course on meditation on Zoom to help people shocked by this disaster and big disaster. And we started this course in every week in Wednesday. I did not felt at this time that we can continue it even for a few months, but in fact, we are continuing regularly and weekly this course from 1 full year. And we was blessed 2 times, in April and in June 2021, by the presence of Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo for 2 interviews with her directly from her monastery near Dharamsala in India. And these 2 interviews are already available in YouTube. You can see it. And also they are available as a text also in my site and in the site of Dr. Jagvin. The name of channel of YouTube is also, I wrote it in the chat, so you can see it and you can subscribe also in this YouTube channel, so you will receive regularly all new videos. Subscription is totally free. And today, we are so happy to welcome her for a 3rd interview. Her presence is a real blessing for us. It is a true celebration. It is a real celebration for us. That's why we chose it this day. It will encourage us to go on our course and our practice. The situation in Lebanon, economical, political, and life situation is even, unfortunately, is even more bad than 1 year before. No electricity, no gasoline, no medicines in pharmacy, no fuel oil. Corona is still there and going up. No government, and so many things. And in this very bad situation, the need for meditation and to go inside and for a course like this one is really urgent. So that's why we are going on, and that's why we welcome Jetsunma with us today. All the last courses, the courses for 1 full year, are already available in YouTube. We put 130 video of these courses and other video courses on yoga and meditation. And the name of the channel, it is my name, and I wrote it there. If you subscribe, it is freely. You can have all new events and all new videos. Also, this one where we are doing today. So, welcome, Jetsunma, with us. We are so happy, really, in this poor country, really, to welcome you again and to discuss with you and to get your knowledge. First question, what you can suggest, what you can say to such a poor people in a poor country in this big disaster. And after 1 year of this disaster situation, and are more and more bad, as I told.
Really, what words are there to say? You know, I mean, the suffering of people is really beyond thought. but along with their suffering comes their strength. And I hope also their innate kindness towards each other when they are in this very difficult situation which our country is experiencing. The important thing, therefore, is to hold together as a unity and to care for each other, because otherwise, if you don't care for each other, who will care for you? And really, you know, this is a time to show your inner strength as a nation, not about your religion, not about your ethnic background, but about your unity as human beings. And at this time, as suffering human beings, needing the help and the caring of each other to hold strong. So this is the point, that we all have to hold hands together metaphorically and support each other during these difficult times.
Thanks. Jetsumna, our third interview, we selected questions from your biography book, Hermitage dans la neige, Hermitage in the snow. So we stressed more, maybe a little bit, on your own life and your own biography to be inspired from this exceptional biography. The first question, you said, my life is like a river that has always flowed steadily in the same direction. It is in page 15. What do you mean by this, Jetsumna?
Well, I think what I meant was that I feel as though I'm in a boat, a small boat that's being carried along by the current. So even if I want to go in this direction, the flow is being swept along in a different direction. It's going where it's going to go. And so therefore events and circumstances, they just appear, everything comes together, but as if in a way the route is already pre-planned. I don't have too much say in where the boat is going to go. It's just going along the river the way it needs to go. So that's what I meant, that in many ways my life just feels like it's been pre-planned.
This boat, you guided it, no? How you say? I didn't say where it is going. You mean?
Who knows where it's going? It's going where it's going. You know, here we have ended up. But it always feels to me that I just have to rest in the boat and it will take me along. I'm not rowing.
You didn't have a choice, a decision about where it is going?
Essentially not. I mean, that things come together, you know, all these different causes and conditions, and one thing leads into the next, leads into the next, leads into the next, and then here I am. I think I have very strong karma from the past. And some people don't have much. Their karma is very, could go this way, could go that way, depending on their choices. But for myself personally, it has always seemed that there is something which needs to be done in this life. And whether I want it or not, it's going to happen. So that's why it feels like that I'm just being swept along by circumstances.
Jetsumna, this karma from the past life, you said, you know it or just you feel it?
Basically, I just feel it. I don't know it. I mean, I definitely feel that I got reborn in London as a female, but I have always felt that I was in the wrong place when I was in London, and that also I was in the wrong body. I was very puzzled at being female. So I think that looking back, I assume that I previously usually had a male body. My Lama also said previously I was male, this lifetime as female, more difficult to keep me close to him. But I mean, it's past life is gone and it's not important. But definitely it influences what's happening in this life.
Jetsumna, you were ordained a nun in 1964 at the age of 21, as you told in your biography. My question, is it that an early enough age for a definitive decision for a lifetime, especially since it about entering a tradition that it was not your own tradition by birth?
Well, you know, since I was a small child, I had always wanted to be a nun. And as a small child, I drew two kinds of pictures. One was of Catholic nuns in prayer, and the other was of Japanese ladies in colorful kimonos. Those were my two artistic efforts always. I was not actually a Christian, but I liked very much the idea. I thought of joining like a cloistered order where you go in and you never come out. My only worry was what was I going to do when I got in there, but that kind of life always drew me. Then when I was about 11 or 12, then I remember my neighbors saying, "Oh, you're getting a big girl now. What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm going to be a nun." And they were quite surprised. And I was a little surprised, but I knew it was true. And although they said, "Oh, you'll change your mind when you get older," I thought, no, I won't. I'm going to be a nun. And so, I mean, you know, it was logical when I became Buddhist. At first, they only talked about monks, 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 but eventually I discovered there were nuns in Buddhism. And therefore, it was the logical thing. When I said to my Lama, I want to be a nun, he said, yes, of course. And so 3 weeks after meeting him, I took my first ordination. I mean, he took it for granted, and so did I. I'm very grateful to myself that I knew at that age what I really wanted to do. So, I mean, I didn't get involved in other things, that I went straight for what I knew was right for me. I mean, not right for everybody, but for myself, yes.
You wanted to be a nun before being a Buddhist, so you wanted to be a Christian nun?
Yes, yeah, because that was the only kind of nun I knew. I mean, you know, Jewish people don't have nuns. The only other people I knew were the Christians, but I couldn't work out how, since I was not Christian, what I was going to do if I became a nun. What was I going to pray about? So when I became Buddhist, I was very happy because that solved that problem.
Okay, so you discovered Buddhism after, and
yes, I became Buddhist when I was 18.
And there is a big difference to be a nun, a Christian nun, or a Buddhist nun, at least in the organization of monastic life.
I mean, there are differences, just as there are differences between Christianity and Buddhism. But, you know, if we meet with Christian nuns, or Christian nuns meet with Buddhist nuns, there is an immediate sense of sisterhood. You know, we're all nuns in this together. We might have different ideas, different practices, but, you know, there is a commonality between nuns from all religions, Jain nuns also, Hindu nuns. I mean, there is a sense of, you know, underneath all the dogma, there is a unity of being a celibate sisterhood.
Jetsumna, you said in page 17 of this book of your biography, I have vowed to reach enlightenment as a woman, no matter how many lives it takes. My question, why this rigorous feminism? Is being a woman, or rather remaining a woman, is more important than attaining enlightenment?
No, of course not. But the problem is that usually we are told that women cannot attain to Buddhahood, right? We need to have a male body in order to become a Buddha.
It is in the
So
scriptures, it is
yes,
in the
yes. You go to any Lama and he says, well, very good, but at the end, you have to be reborn as a male, right? So women, therefore, in Buddhist countries regularly pray to be reborn as males. And so therefore, it's very important to demonstrate that the female body is just as capable, just as good as a male body, as far as attaining enlightenment is concerned. I mean, there's no reason why a male body should be favored over the female body. What is it about the male body that's so special that prevents you from becoming enlightened? There's a story of Tara. This is Tara.
Yes.
And she was a princess. The story, she was a princess and she was a nun and she was very, very spiritually advanced. And so then all the monks said, oh, now you have to come back again as a male and you can attain enlightenment. And she said, no, I vow to attain enlightenment in a female form. And she did, Tara. Okay. So now when lamas say, oh, no, sorry, dear, you can't become a Buddha in a female form, I say, fair enough. You aspire to become a Buddha. I just aspire to become like Tara. Then they can't say anything.
But Buddha himself.
But if it came about that females were favored over the male body, then it's all right to be a male. You know, go for the underdog.
You said in scripture it is there. My question, Buddha himself told something like that in the scriptures?
To become liberated and enter nirvana as an arahat, either male or female can attain. When the Buddha was asked, can women attain in liberation? He said, of course they can, and they do. But Buddhahood is something beyond being an arahat. And according to the tradition, there are going to be 1,000 Buddhas in this eon. All of them are male. All the past Buddhas were male. The present Buddha for this time is male. The future Buddha Maitreya is male. Therefore, it was taken that it is necessary and essential to have a male body in order to attain to Buddhahood. There are no female Buddhas.
Okay. You said in the same field, Jetsuna, the problem is that there is a serious lack of spiritual masters who are women. That is why in our time, it is more useful to be a woman in page 93. And my question, is a woman more capable than a man to transmitting the dharma and the teaching to another woman?
No, of course not. Not necessarily. I mean, but when all the teachers are male, what message is this given to women, right? Or all your authority figures are male. What is that saying for us, right? And in addition, women often understand women better than men understand women. Why would we not? We know what women have to go through. And so therefore, when women give Dharma talks, they give it in a way which is, how can I say, you know, women appreciate listening to other women, and also many men do too. I mean, many of the very few high female lamas there are have many male disciples. because they also appreciate the way they transmit the Dharma. Women will transmit the Dharma in a somewhat different way to how the males will do it. You know, they have a different approach, and that completes the whole thing. You know, it's otherwise you only hear the male voice. You never hear the female voice. And yet most of the Dharma students nowadays, anywhere, East or West, are female. So you have an auditorium, 2/3 filled with women, but only a male on the throne. Why? Why? So, I mean, to balance the picture, it's good. We're not saying no males. We're just saying also females should be represented. Why not? They're just as intelligent, just as educated, just as realized as the males. Why should they not have a voice? Isn't it?
Yeah. So do you think, Jetsumna, that woman can understand another woman much more than a man can do it?
They probably feel more empathy because they have, you know, I mean, a male body has its own male problems. A female body has a female problems. Psychologically, we're somewhat different. And so naturally, women are more likely to understand women and what women have to go through than a man can understand. So, you know, it's good to have male teachers and female teachers both. It's not that one is better than the other. I mean, but that they are two faces of the same coin.
The main problem, Jetsumna, that in all actual religions, man has and men tell woman what she has to do, and teaching it is always that, maybe without knowing the real nature of woman.
Yes, yes. Tell me about it. We all know about that.
In Islam, in Judaism, in Christianity, they are all a man who are teaching and who are telling to a woman how she should be, the good behavior of her, how she should do what she should do, and all these things are teaching by a male, and maybe without knowing the real nature of woman, if it is good for her or not.
Yep. So this is why things have to change. This is why now we also have to have the feminine voice, because that completes the picture, which has always been very biased and one-sided up to now. You know, so it's good. I mean, it's not that the men have to go down, but that they should also allow space for, you know, a different kind of energy.
Do you think, some people said what Jetsumna, Tenzin Palmo are telling and what are asking for a woman in Buddhism, it's a part of feminist actual in the whole world, isn't it?
Well, as the Dalai Lama says, if it means that I think that women have equal rights and should have equal opportunities, then I'm a feminist. So if the Dalai Lama can be a feminist, then so can I.
Okay. Jetsumna, you are talking on Dalai Lama, and we'll ask you a question about Dalai Lama. In your first meeting with the Dalai Lama, he addressed you using the term Anila in Tibetan. It is a term only used between two hermits. Even the translator was surprised, as you told in page 67 of your book. My question, do you think he knew by intuition that you will be a hermit one day? Why he used this term?
It's more than that. It's more than that, Lwiis. What His Holiness actually said was, oh, Anila, Tutangompel. Now, Anila, of course, is a nun, the term for nun in Tibetan. And at that time, I was not a nun. I mean, it was a week later before I met my Lama and 1 month before I became a nun. At that time, I had long hair and was wearing a lay chuba, a lay costume. But he also said Tutangompel. And that is, it means, is your spiritual practice going well? And in Tibet, when two practitioners or hermits met, instead of saying, is your health good? They would say, is your spiritual practice going well, to each other? And if you meet a hermit, you say, oh, Tutangompel. So that was what got the translator very surprised. Why is he saying to this lay girl, oh, nun, is your practice going well? And that is what I think, that he saw something. I mean, he must have seen something. Otherwise, it was a very strange thing to say to a lay girl. And even his translator looked very surprised. Looked at me again and looked at him. Whoa, this is what His Holiness is saying. I don't know why he said it to you. So, I mean, clearly His Holiness intuited something at that point. He didn't explain.
From that time, how was your relation with His Holiness?
Well, of course, I've always seen His Holiness from time to time. And when he sees me, he says, oh, that's my old friend. Because we are old friends. We go back to 64. At that time, he was very young, very handsome. He was especially very loving after my long retreat. When I went to see him, he kept giving me big hugs and we had long, long talks. His Holiness is always very supportive, of course, of nuns and of practitioners and so forth. I mean, I have met him, of course, on many, many occasions. He's a very extraordinary man, actually. Tibetans are very lucky to have him.
He's still following your activity and he's still in touch, regular touch about...
He knows we have a nunnery. He hasn't visited it, but he knows we have it. And as I say, whenever I see him, he always greets me and, you know, and sometimes gives me a hug. So, I mean, he's always very, you know, very open towards whatever is going on within his community.
Okay. Jetsuna, you tell us that when you showed your picture of a nun to your second master, as Sakya Tenzin, he told you look like a veiled Virgin Mary, in page 117. My question, what remains in Tenzin Palmo, the Buddhist nun of her original Christian tradition? And why this inspiration? Why he saw in you a Virgin Mary?
Well, because I was kneeling there looking very, very pious and white and looked a bit like a Renaissance Virgin Mary, but bald, right? That's why he said that. You know, but the point is that, I mean, I have never actually been a believing Christian. I mean, sometimes when I was very young, I would go to church because I liked the ritual. We were Anglo-Catholic, but I never believed in Christianity per se. I never believed in a creator God who orders our lives and then judges us at the end. I mean, now when I look back, I didn't believe in, I had always believed since I was a very small child that we were inherently perfect and that we had to keep coming back again and again until we discovered our innate perfection. I had no idea about original sin. I had no idea about that we only have this one lifetime, then we're judged. That wasn't the way I thought at all. I thought we just had to keep coming back again and again. I always believed in rebirth. I always believed in karma. Nobody taught me. I just knew. When I asked my mother what she thought, she said that sounded sensible. And I thought it sounded sensible to me too. So always my question was, what is perfection? What is it? And how do we attain it? And that's what I was always searching for. until I came across Buddha Dharma when I was 18. So Christianity was not, I mean, you know, I had to go to religious classes at school, but it was not something which ever influenced my thinking. I didn't think like that at all. So I can't say that I carried much of that along with me. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people, especially if they've been Catholics, always remain Catholics in their heart. But I never even really understood what Christians were going on about. It was just not the way I thought.
So what it remained from Christianity? Nothing in the actual.
Well, yeah, I think Jesus was a great bodhisattva. I think he was very misunderstood and got lost in all the dogma. But beyond that, you know, I mean, the ethical side of it and the side about being kind and being good and being generous, all religions, you know, hold to that. You know, I mean, what religion doesn't tell us we should be good and kind and generous? Whether people are is another thing, but I mean, they're told they should be. But beyond that, I can't say that I was particularly influenced by Christianity. And of course, in England nowadays, where is Christianity?
Where is it, you think?
Where is it? You know, I mean, it's mostly just a social order, you know. When I was at school, when we were 11, we had to say what religion we were. And so when they asked me, what's your religion? I said, I don't know. It meant I was an agnostic, but I didn't know the word. I was only 11. So they said, oh, C of E, Church of England. And I thought, that's it. You know, if you're Catholic, you know you're Catholic. If you're a Jewish, you know you're Jewish. If you don't know what you are, you're Church of England. That sums up the church. Pathetic.
Okay.
It's sort of nothing.
Jetsunna, you tell us that after several situations of lack of money, you say to yourself, if you really take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha, as we do at the moment of ordination, and if you really practice, then this should not worry you, since the money problems have stopped bothering me, in page 113. So my question, is this also an advice to those who are not monks and who live in the world to not bother about money?
Well, you know, I mean, even Jesus said, did he not? Give you no thought unto the morrow what you shall eat or what you shall wear, because, you know, your Father knows you need these things and he will provide you. So the idea is also there in Christianity that we should not give too much attention to our, you know, our everyday needs, because if we have faith, somehow they will come. Nonetheless, of course, on a worldly level, for ordinary people, they do have a responsibility. They need to take care of themselves. They need to take care of others. So the message then is just not to be too bound by all our possessions and our responsibilities, not to cling to them too tightly, and not to make that the predominant importance in our life, because after all, when we die, we leave everything behind anyway. And to have faith that if from our side we are sincere in our spiritual aspirations, the universe will come together to take care of us. It does. But of course, as you know, family people, etc., then they have a responsibility for their families, for their children, for their education, etc. But not to make our ambition in life just getting on, being comfortable, having a bigger house, more cars, and so forth. That's where we go astray. So it's like that. But someone who is a monk or a nun or has renounced the world in general, then yes, I mean, you should just believe that you know, if from our side we are sincerely practicing, that somehow we will be taken care of. And it's worked out like that. I mean, I'm nearly 80 now. And up until now, I have never given any thought about, you know, what I will eat or what I will wear. But nonetheless, it all comes together quite miraculously sometimes. When you need extra, extra just manifests.
But Jetsumna, you are responsible of a big monastery. There is no problems of money.
Yeah, now I take care of the monastery, but again, I don't care. I mean, in my heart, I always feel that as we needed money, the funding will come, and the funding has come. And when we need extra money for something spontaneously, that also comes. And so it's just like that. I mean, if you really trust, then things just manifest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jetsumna, you say about the importance of practicing Hatha Yoga in your life as a hermit. You say, yoga has helped me considerably to neutralize all effects of sitting meditations and to alleviate my spinal problem, in page 127. My question, do you think that the practice of Hatha Yoga posture is indispensable for a meditator, and what do you recommend in this area?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're spending all day long sitting immobile, it's important to get exercise. I mean, our nuns also do yoga every day, and the little ones do some Tai Chi. Well, for myself, since I only had a limited space in the cave, the obvious best exercise to do was asanas, was Hatha Yoga, because that didn't require too much space. But the thing with Hatha Yoga is that it stretches and exercises us from the top to the toes. I mean, all parts of the body are exercised and utilized. And also, of course, as we know very well, Hatha Yoga was intended to make the body and the energies on the body, the prana, ready for sitting meditation. That was the aim of it. It wasn't to get a beautiful body. It was so that when we sit, we can sit without any discomfort for long periods of time. So therefore, Hatha Yoga and meditation fit together perfectly. Also, when one is doing Hatha Yoga, it is also a mindfulness practice. You know, you're not just bouncing around, but you're doing everything very slowly, very carefully, together with the breathing, together with the attention. So it fits in itself. It's a kind of meditation. So, well, therefore, you know, this is why Hatha Yoga is such a precious tradition.
So you think Hatha Yoga is an integrative part of sadhana, and Buddha himself he has done some exercises of postures, you think?
Well, I think in the Buddha's day, they were walking everywhere. So they probably got more than enough exercise, just all the walking that they did. But certainly, and in the Vajrayana also, they have kind of yogic exercises. They're a little different from Hatha Yoga, but they're also dealing with utilizing both the body and the pranic energies. So all of it is to get the nadis supple, the inner channels supple, and the energies flowing properly through the central channels. So that also is an enormous benefit for meditation. So the two go together very nicely.
Can I
You still
ask
do
one question?
Hatha Yoga, Jetsumna? You still do Hatha Yoga, actually?
Not much. I'm very lazy. I hate exercise. I did it when I was in the cave because I knew if I didn't, I would be crippled by the end. And so I was very disciplined to doing an hour and a half every day. But other than that, I'm really very lazy. I do a bit of walks and that's it. I'm sorry. I'm not a good advertisement for...
You think there is an age limit for Hatha Yoga and postures?
Oh, no. I mean, you can start when you're very, very small and you can go on until you're 108. In fact, it will make you at 108 feel like you're only 16. I mean, I have 100% faith in the advantages of a really sensible, all-encompassing exercise like Hatha Yoga. It doesn't mean I do it anymore, but I do believe in it, and I know I should.
And your nuns in your monastery, they did it? They do it?
Yeah, they do. They do about half an hour or so of Hatha Yoga every day.
Okay. Jetsunna, you said in your book also, your mother said to you just before her death, I pray that I will be reborn once again in the form of your mother in my future lives, so that I can help you follow your spiritual path, in page 115. My question, how does it feel for you to hear this testimony of your dying mother again?
Well, you know, I mean, my mother and I obviously had very strong karmic connections from past lives. And I think she was the only reason why I got reborn in East London. There didn't seem any other point. And she had always looked to me from the early time to be like her guide on the spiritual path. For example, when I was 15, I took up Hatha Yoga and became vegetarian. And so then she also was doing Hatha Yoga and we all became vegetarian. So, and then later she became Buddhist when I became Buddhist. And so she never stood in my way. When she knew I had to leave and go to India and find my teacher, she never ever said, don't do that. How can you leave me behind, your poor old mother? She was always very supportive. Later, she also came to India, stayed nearly 1 year, met all my lamas, took refuge and so forth. And she never ever created any psychological coercion to make me feel guilty about not being with her. She understood that I needed to lead my own special kind of life. And as much as she could, she supported that. So therefore, I have no doubt that also we will meet again in future lives. Whether she is my mother again, I don't know. But I am sure we have some very strong karmic connections from past lives. And we will meet again.
You think you will come again for birth, Jetsunna?
Well, I don't know how. I mean, you know, I might be her mother for all I know. But anyway, I mean, for sure, somehow or other, we will meet up. Yeah, I'm sure that's what she wanted. And that's also what I want.
In the same topic, you admit, Jetsunna, and you said, I was quite cold with my mother, and I feel very sad about it now. I feel that I was quite critical of her, and I regret it very much, in page 155. My question, why and how were you quite critical of her?
Well, I guess mainly because, you know, despite understanding my aims in life, nonetheless, my mother in her heart would have liked me to have just stayed a nice, pretty daughter with pretty clothes and lots of boyfriends and doing the things that girls did. And so I was sometimes very down-putting on her aims for me, her worldly aims. And in addition, I had spent many, after I came back, I had been in India for 11, 12 years. And then I returned to England for a short time. During that time, I was a nun. I was living alone and in Asian society. So I was not into a big huggy, you know, over affectionate kind of being. I mean, I just wasn't like that. I was quite austere. And I was not particularly, you know, in India, you're not physically very close and affectionate. It's not the part of the culture. And so I knew she would love to have given me a nice big hug, but I wasn't into, I mean, I hadn't been to Italy yet. So I was not into this very close kind of relationship. In addition, I wasn't interested in television or in any of the kind of things which she was interested in when I went back in 73, 74. And so we didn't really have much in common, you know, and I was quite cold in that way, that disapproving of, you know, her interest in television programs and things like that. I'm so sorry. I should not have done that. But I was like that. So that was how it was. So, but she accepted it. I mean, she understood, and she never tried to, you know, make me something that I wasn't. So anyway, but I'm sorry. I would have been more relaxed nowadays. I would have been more affectionate. But it wasn't to be because she died in the 80s, early 80s.
Jetsumna, which kind of karmic relation we have each with our mother? It is same. We choose our mother, or it will come like that.
Well, it's considered that unless we die consciously, which is very rare, we have no control over where we will take our rebirth, and that we get our rebirth in accordance with the kind of karma and the causes and conditions which will take us to certain places. We don't really get to choose. I mean, otherwise everybody would choose very nice, you know, fairly affluent, good-hearted, kind sort of people, but most people are not reborn in those kind of circumstances. So we get reborn in accordance with our own actions from past lives. It is considered that when the time comes to take rebirth, then if you're going to be a boy, you are attracted to the mother. And if you are going to be a girl, you're attracted to the father, which is quite Freudian. But apart from that, there is not much choice. You go where your karma is sending you.
So we can say we selected by our action, our karma, our parents.
Yes, our past, you know, the causes and conditions which we ourselves have created will bring us our future parents. It's not that we can say, oh yes, we'll have those ones over there. We don't get to choose unless we have died in a conscious state and have not gone through the intermediary state, in which case we can choose our future parents, which is the premise of the whole Tuku system in Tibet, where they get reborn in accordance with their parents, which sometimes they select even before they died.
But you think we can do something for our parents while they pass away?
Oh,
actually,
yeah, sure.
You can do.
Well, you can do prayers for them, and you can make merit on their behalf in order to help them, so that when they died, their consciousness will go upwards and not go downwards. I mean, when we die,
we can help them after death.
Or you can do prayers for them, and you can, for example, go on pilgrimage and make offerings on their behalf and so forth. Yeah, I think so.
It will help
but
them.
Nonetheless, basically, what we experience next time will be the result of how we have lived our life now. I mean, what is mostly in our mind, especially, you know, what kind of level our mind, our consciousness usually stays on. That's the kind of what we are likely to meet next lifetime. So that's why we have now, while we have some control over the situation, what we think and what we say and what we do, this is where we have to be careful.
Yeah, but we can help them, and how? After death.
I said you do prayers, you do pilgrimage, you do offerings, you're generous, you support charities and dedicate the merit to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But in general, even with all that, it still mostly depends on how they themselves have led their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they were really, really bad people, it's very hard to help them too much. If they were very, very good people, then, they don't even need so much help because they've already done it for themselves.
So in both cases, no need for our help, though. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this is why we need to use this lifetime to make use of our life now while we have it. Once we die, then we get the results coming back. Now is when we are sowing the seeds, Mm-hmm. So we have to sow good seeds and water the seeds and take care of them so that they sprout nicely. If we only sow poison seeds, we will get a poison harvest.
Someone who get realization, he can help much more his parents.
Sometimes, if they are really very realized, they can do, because their prayers have more effect than ordinary people like us. We just do the best we can.
Okay.
That's why people ask lamas to do prayers, right? Or priests and so forth. They assume they've got a higher level of accountability than ordinary people.
Jetsumna, you state after a long period of illness, and you said, what this experience has taught me is that the fatigue associated with pain comes from resisting it. You have to learn to tune into the pain and read it out in page 146. And my question is the golden rule to accept the pain as it comes without any resistance?
Well, obviously, the Buddha himself said that there are two kinds of sickness, two kinds of suffering. One is physical suffering, which we cannot do much about. We're going to physically suffer because we have a body. The other is the mental suffering, which accompanies that. Oh, poor me, I'm sick. Oh, I don't like this sickness. Oh, this resistance. This creates a double suffering, right? Not just the physical suffering, but also the mental suffering. So if we, if we can relax and accept the suffering, it doesn't mean we don't try to cure it, but nonetheless, we accept that right now we are suffering, but it's okay. Then we don't have the mental suffering. So in other words, we can say to ourselves, my body is sick, but I am not sick, right? Mm-hmm. But if we say, oh, my body is sick, I'm so sick, I am sick, then you've got the double suffering, right? But if you think, well, my body is sick, but I'm not sick, I'm okay, then that immediately releases that tightness and that resistance and that anxiety, which is what actually causes the suffering, much more than the physical suffering.
But what is this state? It is state maybe of realization to be, my body is sick, but I am not sick.
Well, this is what we can tell ourselves. I mean, even just that idea, of course it is a degree of realization, but even for ordinary people, if they say to themselves, I do not need to identify with my body sickness, then it releases the mind from its grasping and identification with the sickness. I'm not sick. My body is sick, but that's not me.
But pain, it's too much. You told one time, pain, it's too much hard that it is so difficult to think beyond it when it is there.
Yeah, but this is why we need to start training when we have little pains. Right? I mean, you start by training with something which is uncomfortable, painful, but not excruciating. And start with that. Okay, my hand hurts, my back hurts, my stomach hurts, but I'm not hurting. Right? And then gradually we get acclimatized to that idea of not identifying with the suffering, recognizing the suffering, but that's not me. And then as the suffering gets more, we already have the idea within ourselves that the body is suffering, but I am not suffering. I mean, it's all training, isn't it?
I think it is possible to do it for normal people, or they should train?
Of course, what is normal? You know, it's all like practice. You know, I mean, yes, Horowitz or Rubinstein can play the piano at concert, you know, level, but an ordinary person can learn to play the piano pretty well. They might not be able to be at the, you know, on a concert hall, but nonetheless, they can play well if they practice. You know, and that's enough. We might not all become great, fantastic yogis, but nonetheless, we can still utilize these methods to transform our mind. Because in the end, it all depends on the mind and our attitude.
Okay.
But start while we're healthy, right? Don't start when we're dying with cancer. Start as soon as possible.
Start as soon as possible to when you have a big pain, you can handle it much more.
Exactly. It's no good trying once, you know, having to drive a Ferrari if you can't even ride a bicycle.
Okay.